Okay, then let's move on now to our Grow Showcase. And that would be our resident E4E doctor, Dr. Dan Fazio. So Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. And it's such a pleasure to meet with everybody in the beginning of this holiday season, and wishing you all well. It's wonderful to see so many smiling faces. I'm going to switch on to my screen sharing and start my PowerPoint. And just give me a brief moment to get this all queued up. Can everybody see my PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, friends. So today we're talking about health and wellness while adapting your business in unprecedented times. During our partner meeting this morning, Steve Denny mentioned that the outlook has been challenging, dire, in fact, for some small businesses. We discussed this a little bit and we've talked about it in past meetings, but what we're going to cover right now is the inextricable link between personal wellness for entrepreneurs and key employees and how that extends in through the business. So this concept of health and wellness while adapting your business in unprecedented times involves looking at personal wellness first. The old adage of us needing to put the oxygen mask on ourselves first in a flight situation and then address the other people around us in a supportive manner. It's exactly the same thing when it comes to managing your business. Your personal health and wellness has to be priority one, so then you can extend that energy to your employees, coworkers, and your clients. So we've actually got a couple questions that we're going to put out in the form of a survey. And Will, if you're ready to do that, we'll take our first question. The first question has to do with how you've adapted to the challenges of dealing with business in a global pandemic environment. So Will, whenever you're ready, I'll have you put that up there. And there's 3 different potential answers that can be given.
Yep, you're gonna have to give me a minute. For some reason, it's
no problem. I'm sorry to spring it on you at the beginning of the presentation.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not showing up. So talk amongst yourselves.
While we're waiting for that to pop up, I'll jump into what are the 3 elements of personal wellness. Now, wellness, and if you Google the concept of wellness, or even a term called the wellness wheel, it's a concept of how wellness is a central fixture and how different facets of our lives play into that. When we're talking about the 3 elements of personal wellness, this is not an exhaustive list. But when we're talking about the importance of us having that balance as individuals, these are the areas we want to start with. So of course, wellness involves financial wellness, it involves occupational wellness. There are all different aspects of this, but today we're focusing on physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Dan, I think you're just gonna have to ask the question. I'm sorry.
Not a problem at all.
It's not popping up for me.
Yeah, that's no problem. And we can do it in a chat format so we get a rough idea. Let me pull up my questions here. So my question was, in the midst of our global pandemic relating to COVID, I have, and you select one of these 3 options. Option A is been able to adapt to changes with relative ease and moderate accommodations. So had a relatively easy time adapting your business. Option B is worked to adapt to changes as best possible, but with substantial challenge. And then option C, the answer is I've been unable to shift my business to be functional under the current circumstances. So again, the question is, in the midst of the global pandemic relating to COVID, I've been able to adapt my business easily. That's A. B is worked hard to adapt to changes as best possible with substantial challenge. Or C, been unable to shift my business to be functional under the current circumstances.
I got it. Does everybody see it?
And I'm seeing the responses in the chat box too, Will.
Okay, good. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. That was quick tech support there. I thank you.
Right. And you know what? The good news is we don't profess to be perfect at E4E. We're like real people.
We're doing good. We're doing good. So maintaining physical health during stressful times, we want to consider 3 main bullet points just discussing the physical health component: a well-balanced, nutrient-dense diet, daily practice of movement or exercise, and then supplementing with adaptogens and immune boosters. Now, the term adaptogen might be new to some. Others might have heard it before at previous E4E opportunities where I was lucky enough to speak, and you might already use adaptogens. We're going to cover that in more detail, but the basic concept is these are herbal blends, sometimes containing certain vitamin and micronutrient cofactors that help our body adapt, particularly to stress. And you can see why that might be valuable at this time. So a well-balanced, nutrient-dense diet, I'm reminding everybody of that. We all know it's important to maximize the nutrition load that we're taking in with meals. And then at holiday time, we can cheat a little bit. But in general, nutrient-dense diet is so important for health and wellness. It supports your endocrine system for production of hormones and your stress response system, which is a linkage between that endocrine and then your nervous system, or the electricity that runs us.
Dan,
Daily
I'm going to share
practice.
the results here.
Oh, great. What are our percentages, Will?
So 75% of the people chose A, been able to adapt to the changes with relative ease and moderate accommodation.
I'm happy to hear that. How did the other 2 play out?
15% work to adapt to changes, and 10% been unable to shift my business to be functional under the current circumstances.
And I'm terribly sorry for folks in that 3rd category. I'm optimistic to know that we have 85% of the folks falling within relatively easy adaptation and moderate adaptation. As we're moving forward here, we'll talk next about diet and nutrition just a little more in depth. I want to give this as a cursory overview, and folks can rewatch to gather the details. And this has been covered in previous videos on our website, of course. So minding the macronutrients, the basic concept is here, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates are known as our macros, or our macronutrients. It's how we broadly categorize the energy delivery system within food. But the issue is we don't eat protein, we don't eat fats, and we don't eat carbohydrates. We eat food. And food is some combination of these factors. Very, very few instances exist where any one of these macronutrients is a standalone. So I say don't get too caught up in this. Don't get too deep in the woods on your macronutrients. Just have a basic understanding of where to source and make sure you're in the right ratios there. Loading up on micronutrients is super important. And these micronutrients are the minerals, vitamins, and cofactors that exist within food. And when you see the term phytochemicals, I've got that as the next bullet subsection, phytochemicals that support healthy cellular function and immune health. These are the nutrient-rich factors that are available in vegetables, fruits, nuts, root vegetables, and then high-quality meat. So we'll flip to our next chart here, and I say key components of a healthy diet. We want to be eating vegetables in such a way that the color of our plate is diverse and exciting to see. We want purple cabbage, green kale, and orange carrots and sweet potatoes. We want to think about diversity in color on our plate, and that gets us a better balance of nutrients. Fruits, think balance and sugar content. So enjoy those bananas, oranges, and so forth, but know that they're on the heavier end of the sugar content, so eat those in moderation, and go heavy duty on the berries that are so nutrient rich, antioxidant rich, and very helpful for our immune system. Nuts are nature's portable packable snack. And then those root vegetables, think your beets, your turnips, we're thinking of carrots and parsnips. There are a lot of minerals contained in there. And so roast them. This time of year, it's very pleasant to roast root vegetables like that. And it's very reinforcing and helpful for our body. We get a lot of minerals that way. Meats, think quality and organic. Just trust me on this. I get asked the question a lot about how important is it to eat organic? And that varies depending on the food, but you want to go as clean as possible when you're consuming meat. And then whole grains in moderation. For some folks, this is a regular staple of the diet, making up to 25% of their diet. And for others, a lower intake of grains. So it's customized. Our next component is going to be movement and exercise. The most important thing is that we're doing it, that we're getting some type of movement in. And during the pandemic, this is a real challenge because we've got a situation where gyms are closed. If we took regular classes like Pilates, like yoga, like aerobics classes or spinning classes, meeting in groups is not possible right now, at least not in large groups. And so adapting this and just understanding the importance of getting some movement in, it is so important for our body. Walking, yoga, biking, getting a little cold for that, especially with the dusting of snow today. Swimming, if it's an option. I do know there are pools that are staying open with limited numbers of people allowed in there. And then dance classes. In other words, anything that gets you or keeps you moving. It's just so important to have that on the daily. So here we're going to talk a little bit more about adaptogenic supplements. These three things that I highlighted are the most commonly used adaptogens. And the term adaptogen came about in the 1950s. But the use of these factors predates that substantially. All three of these have been used in Ayurvedic medicine, traditional Indian medicine, and traditional Chinese medicine for a very long time. The testing has been done over thousands of years. So we've got rhodiola, which reduces stress hormones. And this is particularly helpful in instances of protracted stress. Cue COVID-19. Ashwagandha is the second one, long-term issues with stress management. This is very helpful. It was in the tea I'm drinking this morning, has ashwagandha in it. Helpful for management of anxiety and stress. And then lastly, ginseng. And ginseng is great for relaxing anxious states, relieving anxiety, and its fast action makes it helpful for circumstantial stressors. So if there's something that you know you're walking into that could be stressful, having that ginseng available. Now, it's very important to know that for taking these individual factors into your diet, we have to look at other medications you're on, and there has to be some guidance given there. So feel free to reach out to me with questions about this. There are contraindications, meaning instances where you don't want to take these with other medications or with other conditions, health conditions. But I will tell you, in most instances, it just needs to be monitored. There's still a safe way to dose it. I cover again vitamin supplements. There are a handful of instances where I do intakes with patients and realize this individual is covering it with their diet. But I will tell you, I can categorically say that that is the minority of folks. So a high quality multivitamin is a very helpful way to ensure that you're getting the basics met. And there is a substantial difference in quality between the lowest price offerings out there and the higher quality professional formulas. Again, reach out for help with this. Zinc, vitamin C are still fantastic ways to boost immunity. And a B vitamin multi is basically, it takes the different B vitamins, which are very helpful for helping our body to adapt to stress, and it combines them. So you'll see this listed as a B vitamin multi or a B vitamin stress formula or stress pack. The last thing I've got is immune boosting formulas. This time of year, normally cold and flu season, it's important to have access to immune support, especially so with the current pandemic. I have this bolded. These are not one size fits all. So ask for guidance with this. But as I stated earlier with the adaptogens, there are immune boosting solutions for everybody. They just have to be modified under certain circumstances. Okay, now we're jumping into mental, emotional health. And I have a 4-point checklist here with some subpoints. So important, so important right now that folks feel connected socially. Social support and staying connected to others is absolutely crucial, especially during the holidays, when it's very, very odd for us to be celebrating the way we are with this pandemic underway. So families, friends, groups that you belong to, and virtual gatherings, take advantage of these, even if they don't feel ideal. They're not, but it's the best we've got right now, and staying connected and checking in on others that you know may not have support systems immediately around them all the time. The next component is mindfulness. This is basically the concept of undertaking any act that you're doing in a way that you have complete focus on that act. So mindfulness plays into prayer. Meditation is a form of mindfulness. Walking and eating can be done in a mindful fashion. The basic concept is your complete focus is on what you're doing. You're watching your feet take the steps while you're walking. You're setting your fork down between bites while you're eating, instead of being distracted by all of the things that can potentially distract us. The next is self-compassion. This is a big one. If I could highlight and bold this in real time, I would do it. These are challenging times. Cut yourself some slack. And you'll be amazed as you do that, you'll look around and have a little more patience for others, because we're all under an extra bit of stress right now. The last component is time spent in nature. A little bit of time outside every day that you can. And we know with winter coming, this is also a challenge. But if you can get out, and if we have some of those warmer days, those nicer days, take advantage of that. There's a grounding aspect to being in nature. It is part of us. And as we have the ability to connect with that, stress will be dissipated. Will, I think we're at a good time for our second question, if we've got that queued up.
There it is.
Fantastic. So we're going to be talking in a moment about two different concepts. They're actually born out of education. There were educators and psychologists that came up with these. And our question relates to that. Do you have familiarity with the concepts of the growth mindset and/or grit? As you're answering those, I'm just going to speak briefly. We've all experienced this pandemic in different ways, but some commonalities are, as we're interfacing with other businesses, we've seen businesses adapt and in certain cases even thrive, while other businesses struggle. One of the first categories that comes to mind here, or sectors, is the restaurant business. I mean, we've seen incredible stress on the restaurant business. But I have an idea in mind of two different restaurants in the St. Louis area that I frequented pre-COVID, and I've done carryout with since. They're in similar categories, won't surprise you, healthy food, even though I don't do that all the time. Most of the time we try to. Same categories with very different outcomes. One adapted exceptionally well and the other did not. Both had very loyal followings prior to COVID hitting. But the way their proprietors decided to respond to the challenge differed substantially. So what do we have for results now, Will?
So it was a tie between mindset and growth mindset, but not grit, 2% each.
Would you be able to repeat that? I had a glitch for a second. I'm sorry.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm familiar with the concept of a growth mindset, but not grit, 42%. And I'm unfamiliar with these concepts, but I'm looking forward to learning more, also at 42%.
Okay, great. Well, I'm excited to roll into this. So both of these concepts were put forth by these brilliant PhDs. The first one is on mindset, and Carol Dweck is an educator, a Yale-educated psychologist who came up with the concept of mindset as falling into two main categories. She has the concept of fixed mindset as a situation where an individual, if they possess this fixed mindset programming, they will believe that talent and intelligence are inborn, fixed, and unchangeable. And conversely, she has established a growth mindset category where we believe abilities can be developed and strengthened by employing commitment and hard work. So this isn't to say under a growth mindset that anybody can do anything. I would not make a good NBA basketball player. But growth mindset is about living up to one's potential and the concept that there's a multitude of different things one might be good at if given the opportunity. The movement from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset we'll discuss in a following slide. The next concept I want to talk about is known as grit. Dr. Angela Duckworth's book, Grit, is a fantastic example of completely paradigm shifting exposure. And her concept here is that grit, which she defines as passion plus perseverance, and I've seen her also say passion plus resilience, helps us in ways that talent alone and intelligence alone can't. She talks about during this challenge, during COVID-19 and the pandemic, we can frame our adversity in an optimistic and resilient way. And so let's look a little deeper into both. First, Carol Dweck's mindset model. We go from fixed mindset if we choose that we want to make changes around the way we view things, and we identify ourselves as having this fixed mindset. We can, through hard work, move through to a growth mindset. And this is a slow, steady process. Again, we want patience with ourselves. There are tools on her website, which I've got the link for at the bottom here, mindsetworks.com/science. You can take these tests to determine where you fall in a fixed, mixed, or growth mindset. And you can determine ways to be helped through to where you want to end up in a growth. Here are two categories that you'll see listed on her site. What I'm basically going to show you here is I'll read down through the growth mindset, and just know that there is a converse mindset and the fixed to each of these, but this is where we want to get. We want to get to the point where we embrace challenge, we welcome change, and we persist in the face of setbacks. We see efforts as the path to mastery and understand that working those muscles, even the neuronal ones, will benefit us. We learn from criticism rather than let it get us down, and we find lessons and inspiration in the success of others. As a result, we reach higher levels of achievement. Now we'll switch to Dr. Duckworth's grit concept. The basic concept here is stick-to-itness, passion, and perseverance win the day. Wonderful resources on her website also, and she has a TED Talk that's worth viewing. It's just absolutely fantastic, and it couldn't be more timely than right now. So next, we'll switch to a spiritual connection. I'm going to keep this pretty brief, but it's a strong reminder. At times like this, when challenge is so high, sometimes we can feel down and even connect less spiritually. And so recentering ourselves, looking towards God, universal energy, the field, however you view your higher power, connect with that, something bigger than yourself. Prayerful connection can be extremely helpful. Again, it's a mindful activity and fills that spiritual component. Extending love and gratitude to others in our world, so important. And there's so much to be grateful for. And reestablishing that faith circuit. We need it now more than ever.